Before the Rings of Power, there were the Silmarils. Before Sauron, there was his master Morgoth. Before Aragorn and Arwen, there was Beren and Luthien. Join us as we explore Tolkien and all the ages of Middle-earth with your hosts from theonering.com, Jonathan Watson and Michael Grumbine.
Episode 149 of Exploring Tolkien. What is 150? Is there a word for that? There's no bicentennial. There's no like quarter of a century, quarter of a millennium. Is there?
There is a word for it, and I did not look it up because you've thrown that.
I know. I didn't ask you to look it up. I just realized that hey, we're at 149.
There
That's
is a
pretty
word
great.
for a half. There's a word for a half century, but I can't remember what it is. Like a Middle English word.
Oh, you would know. I wouldn't. All right. So anyway. Welcome, everybody, to episode 149 of Exploring Tolkien. We are on to, I think it's episode 34 of The Hobbit. We have 3 chapters left. We're on chapter 17. The Clouds Burst. This is after the gathering of the clouds.
Pie chart that shows of all of our 149 episodes, how much time have we spent, split up the pie on each topic. How much time do we spend on the Silmarillion, on Rings of Power, on Peter Jackson's changes, and on the things like the Mariner's Wife's Tale, and of course the Hobbit. So that'd be fun.
That would be good. I'm sure with AI we could throw in the transcripts for every single one of those, and it could eventually figure it out. But that's a little bit of extra work that I'm not willing to do. Michael, it's on you, man.
I'll do it. I'll make a pie chart.
That would be hilarious. That'd be great. Now, are we going to be skewed if we include the changes to Tolkien? Are you talking about per episode, where we talk about within how much do we talk about the changes that he made to the Hobbit? Or are you talking about per episode by episode?
I would start with the broadest brushstroke, which is just what's the main topic of each episode, and then you could subdivide it roughly for the episodes.
And where do the Rings of Power fit into that?
They're the rotten piece at the bottom, like a black piece of pie. Maury.
You know what it is? Because it's so funny. Because like on YouTube, it's the one that gets the most views. So it's like the enchanted gold, right? You hate it, but it
ooh, good segue. Good segue.
It's like it's been sat on by a dragon for too long. Oh man. So anyway, yeah, let's get into this here. But first, I wanted to bring up this. I don't know if you saw this article right here. Let me see if I can get it up here on our camera. Bam. Did you see this here? Students shall not pass unless they accept Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Is offensive.
Yes, there's been a couple Lord of the Rings in the news in the last 2 weeks.
Oh, the Telegraph isn't letting me see it all. In any case, the whole idea is there's an author that is going through, or a professor at which I can't remember which university it was.
Nottingham. It's
Nottingham.
It's the sheriff of Nottingham. Just think of it. Think of it that way.
Talking about the colonialism, and ultimately he talks about how the brown people are the evil people in the Lord of the Rings, and this is a major problem.
Yep, Gandalf the White, and then everything with regard to Sauron is black, and
But wait,
because there's no other way to understand. It isn't like peoples across the world have been equating light and dark or white and black with good and evil since time immemorial. Nope, man, it's all racism.
No.
Racism.
Yeah. Well, words are racist. So simply, the use of a particular adjective can be racist in all its permutations, anywhere, all the time, no matter what, or nor the intention of the user. It is simply that.
I remember a cute day back like 2 decades ago when I used to argue with people. Like people would say, "This is racist. You're racist." And I got really worked up. And now I've just stopped.
It does. Yeah,
yep, we're all racist.
Yes.
Everyone's a racist.
Yeah. You can't argue with somebody who doesn't rub together 2 molecules of brain cells every once in a while. So why even try? Anyway, I just wanted to point it out that we're still dealing with this sort of inanity that somehow in higher education places we get this kind of approach to great writing, because they simply don't understand it and they want to cast their own aspersions on it. They cast their own cloak of modernity, of wokeism, of ideas onto it, and they say, no, look, Lord of the Rings is racist because orcs aren't white. And it's just sort of dumb. It's like, look, if you see it that way, maybe you're the racist one because all you want to do is come and find the problems everywhere.
Just reduce everything to racism.
Reduce it to racism. So I don't. Anybody who reads Lord of the Rings isn't going like, oh yeah, the orcs. They remind me of that neighbor I once knew. He was a nice guy, but maybe because they had similar skin tone, then he was an orc too. No, nobody thinks that way.
I have a sneaking suspicion that the treatment that Rings of Power did with the orcs in the second season was actually, some intern somewhere inside was like, we should make the orcs light and have a white-based color scheme and such, because that's fighting the implicit racism of orcs always being black, dark-skinned. So I had a sneaking suspicion. There we go. There they are.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
White people bad.
So bad. Oh my gosh, it's so dumb.
Yep.
Why are they wearing alligator skins?
It's all those white underground alligators, the albino alligators.
Albino alligators. That's right. Oh my goodness. All right. Okay.
We
Sorry, guys. Again. This is the golden horde that we have to occasionally take a coin from to discuss the Rings of Power. Okay. Hey, everybody. Let's get into our
Hobbit Facts.
Oh, but real fast before we get into Hobbit Fact. Hey, guys, remember, we are a membership-based podcast, so you can get the extended podcast by going to theonering.com/member. We thank our supporters, Colt, Lynn, and Rich. Colt, our MVP, and Lynn and Rich, our sponsors who go above and beyond the standard $4 a month, which you can get by going to theonering.com/member, or $5 a month if you want to use Patreon at theonering.com/Patreon. And also, hey, give us a like, a review on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on wherever you end up listening to this here, and more folks will find us, and we get to chat with more people. We are doing a chat this Monday night, which happened last night because that's when we released this. So. Sorry, everybody. It's just the way the cookie.
The wonderful time traveling that occurs.
Yeah, and when you remember, you get a couple email reminders that says, "Hey, join us. Here's the Zoom link, and join us right here." When you click on it and you can join on your phone, your tablet, your computer, your Nokia, anything. It all works.
Wow, I never thought of that.
Actually, sorry. Okay, so once again, Hobbit facts. Sorry, I had to inject that there because everybody's just going to skip by that unless I go straight to the Hobbit facts. Okay, did you know that the name Moria is a direct lift from something? I learned this from the Annotated Hobbit. I never knew this. So let me read where Moria comes from. This is from a 1967 letter Tolkien wrote. The name Moria appears as a... so this is from the History of the Hobbit, but the name Moria appears as a casual echo of Soria Moria Castle in one of the Scandinavian tales translated by George Webb Dasent. And Tolkien wrote, the tale had no interest for me. I had already forgotten it and never since looked at it. It was thus merely the source of the sound sequence Moria, which might have been found or composed elsewhere. I like the sound sequence. It alliterated with mines, and it connected itself with the more dark or black element in my linguistic construction. So funny that, like, right, he didn't come up with the word because it meant something. He's like, ooh, I like the sound of that. Let's make that work. Ooh, it alliterates with mines. Let's make that work. And so the oral quality of the word, I think, is always the first thing that drew him to certain. I mean, that's why he wrote the Elvish languages the way that he did, and the Dwarven and the Orcish, because it had an oral quality that lent itself to those races, to those people groups, to their culture. And so Moria, he felt, it sounded Dwarvish. He said, "Mines of Moria," and it has that that lilt.
Oh, and you can see the connection with a lot of the Western languages anyway. Mortis is Latin for death, mortal and mortician, mortuary, and so the MOR sound has a kind of bleakness to it, has a kind of so that the fact that he associates it with blackness or a black chasm in the case of brain. I like the fact that, because I read the same, I learned the same thing. I didn't know the root of the word or the foundation of the word from Tolkien's perspective. I like how he categorically denies, he gets really irritable about, because already in 67 people are bringing up, well, is this a reference to Mount Moria that Abraham sacrificed Isaac on?
Right.
He's like, no. He literally says, my mind does not work that way.
Right.
It's awesome. Tolkien getting irritated by people trying to draw too many connections.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
It just like the sound, dude.
Yeah, he said internally there is no conceivable connection between the mining of dwarves and the story of Abraham.
Mm-hmm.
Although, you know what? There are probably some people on Twitter that would probably say, no, really? Oh, look, the dwarves are supposed to be Jews, which some people said also to him back in the day.
Oh, no.
So he did have a letter about that. He said, I utterly repudiate any such significance and symbolisms. My mind does not work that way. So he doesn't have hidden symbols in his words or in his names and places that are reflective of our world in order to make a point. He never does that. And that's exactly what he said.
I think he's just rejecting the fact that, so for him, what he connects with, he has a whole word hoard at his disposal of languages from the Middle Ages, from the ancient world. And so he's a philologist, he knows how words evolve, so he's been studying it for a long time. So when he sees a word, his immediate connection, the way I took what he's saying, what he does is it goes back to the things that he's heard before. And there are some times, like with the word Moria, that he just finds that he finds it pleasing because he also mentions that there's an alliteration to it.
Right.
And sometimes he doesn't find it pleasing, but he just likes the older root that this word came from, as because he appreciates the age of it and the provenance, as they would say.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I think that he's just like, no, everything doesn't have to go back to these deep theological things.
Yeah.
It's not all a connection to the Bible, people. We like the Bible, but it's not.
It's not what inspired him to
Tolkien
write.
Specifically writing an epic for Northern Europe and specifically for England. So his drawbacks are going to be to those, especially his direct drawbacks are going to be to those cultures, as he talks about over and over again.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, there you go, guys. There's your fact. Long one today. Sorry about that. Sorry to throw in the Rings of Power.
That's because I added to it.
It is.
Everything I do, it adds length.
Makes it long. Okay, so let's get into episode 34 of Exploring Tolkien, chapter 17, The Clouds Burst. Michael, would you give us a brief overview of this chapter?
But I will give you an overview.
No truer words were ever spoken, but go for it. Exactly. Let me grab my pillow. I think I have a drink here.
All right, so if we remember the last chapter, Bilbo hands over the Arkenstone to Bard and the Elven King and Gandalf, as it turns out, and as a bargaining chip. And in fact, this chapter opens with them beginning to bargain. So Thorin accepts the emissaries as long as they're unarmed. And so this time the Elven King himself appears, it says, and Bard, and an old man with a casket. An old man is Gandalf, of course. And they reveal the Arkenstone and begin bargaining for it, which the bargaining doesn't happen at all until the very end because, as it says, then Thorin was stricken dumb with amazement and confusion. No one spoke for a long while when the Arkenstone was revealed. So basically, there's this long, awkward pause. And then he goes into a rage. How did you get this stone? And then they say, we're not thieves. Bard says, your own, this is the Arkenstone, we will give back in return for our own. And I would like our readers to recall that our own is the portion of the treasure that was from Dale, that Bard points out. I'm the descendant of the ruler of Dale, and you have treasure in there that's not yours. It came from, by the same claim that you claim all the rest of the treasure, I can claim everything from Dale. And Thorin has studiously avoided even admitting that such a thing exists. And he continues to. But anyway, basically the neither the Elven King nor Bard nor Gandalf reveal that it's Bilbo. It's Bilbo that reveals to Thorin that in a squeak, I get Bilbo, who is peering over the wall by now in a dreadful fright. And so what follows is Thorin going into a rage, calling Bilbo all kinds of names, shaking him, and basically some powerful monologuing. And then The upshot of which is Thorin agrees to give 1/14 of the treasure in return for the Arkenstone, and Bilbo has to go and Bilbo gets kicked out of the dwarves' company. Although he is allowed to keep the mithril coat, and Thorin makes a point of noting that. Thorin's supposed to get out 1/14 of the treasure the next day. As it turns out, it says that the treasure was working on his heart already.
We'll get into that, man.
Okay, all right. Well, hold on.
Yeah.
So
overview, brief.
He plans on not giving them anything, and because he's hoping for Dain to come and take it from them. So, in fact, Dain does show up the next morning. There's some barking back and forth between Dain and the elves at Min, and they prepare. The dwarves, in fact, attack. The Elven King doesn't want to fight until it's absolutely necessary, and the dwarves, suspecting this is the case, attack. And right as soon as they attack, darkness rolls over like a fast forward on a bad B movie. Darkness rolls over the mountain, like it's almost like it's like, one of those time lapse photography things of the onset of a storm. And then out of the darkness of the clouds is another darkness of bats, and Gandalf appears in the middle of the battlefield, or the almost battlefield, telling them to stop. That the goblins are upon them, and then we're told where these goblins come from, but basically they've been gathering for many years, and they are an unbelievable horde. And so what ensues then is the free peoples take counsel with each other and decide not to fight each other, but to fight the goblins. They concoct a plan, which is basically fighting on the spurs of the mountain, the south and eastern spurs. Battle ensues, lots of carnage, but the goblins come over the top. And all of the free people's various forces, although they're very brave and they have lots of sorties and such, they're basically doomed, and they're surrounded and everyone's hemmed in. Thorin comes out, exits with his dwarves. They leveled up with their armor and weapons, and everyone's impressed. And he tries to drive through to Bolg, the leader, and it does not. He fails to reach Bolg. And it is looking very bleak for everyone. Bilbo decides to die by the Elven King, so he hangs out with the elves. And finally, at the very end, he sees the eagles coming, and he calls it out to everyone. And he's totally excited. And then a rock comes down, cracks him on the head, and he knew no more. And that's the end of the chapter.
Awesome. That was brief. It was well done. I had to come in there a little bit and prod you forward.
Yeah. I was getting lost in the weeds for the big monologuing, but anyway, thank you for coming in.
Well, let's start with the Arkenstone and Bilbo as they are. Bard approaches. They come in. He says, "Hail, Thorin, are you still of the same mind?" And he says, "My mind does not change with the rising and setting of a few suns. Did you come to..." Like, he is so belittling of them right away. He's like, you are far beneath me. He's done nothing. Remember, he hasn't defeated the dragon. He's simply thrown up a wall so people can't get in. And he said, "Did you come to ask me idle questions? Who are you to speak to this god king Thorin?" Right? That's kind of what it feels like.
It does feel like it, but I chalked it up to the effect of the gold.
Yeah. And he asks, of course, like, "Can we have any of your gold? Are you willing to give any of it away? Yield any of it?" And he said, "Nothing that you or your friends have to offer." And then they offer the Arkenstone. I think so. And then Bilbo is the one that just like he squeals it, right? It's like he can't hold it in. He's an honest burglar. He can't hold back, right? I guess this is perhaps the most honest you can be as a burglar. He's like, "No, I stole it. No, I'm so sorry." In a way, like he has to. His heart has to come clean. He can't let it just fester in there. Is that how you why you think like that's the character of a Hobbit, right? The Hobbit is not going to be there to be duplicitous, to hide behind the shadow of his own misdeeds. Like, is that why he says it, or does he say it in order to, drive Thorin into making the right decision? Is he saving himself? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's his character. Like, it was clear from the last chapter that he did not feel good about. He felt like it was a kind of betrayal to the dwarves, but he also thought it was the only way to get out for them to not end up fighting over all the gold. And so he was proposing it as a solution. And indeed, it was.
You can tell it threw Thorin off his game because his the way he tries to denigrate Bilbo is to call him as like, you undersized burglar. Like, no, that's kind of true. That's all he is right now. He is an undersized, and he's been a burglar. I think Thorin is thrown so completely off his game. He's just he's completely shaken, and he shakes Bilbo as a part of it. It's at this point that Gandalf is revealed, and tells him to essentially, please don't throw my hobbit off of the walls here. But it's Bilbo's speech, and if I'm going too fast, stop me if we're moving along through this part too quickly. It's Bilbo's speech, his monologue to Thorin, where he says this: "I'm sure this is all very uncomfortable." Like
so
another
English.
understatement.
So English.
So English, yeah, right. You remember saying that I might choose my own 14th share. Perhaps I took it too literally. I've been told that dwarves are sometimes politer in word than deed.
Ooh, slap.
Which is what Smaug said to him, and which is what Thorin said. Oh no, don't believe anything the dragon says. So he's repeating, like when he says, "I've heard it said." He heard it say from the mortal enemy of the dwarves, and maybe it's true. The time was all the same when he seemed to think that I had been of some service, descendant of rats indeed, because he called him a descendant of rats. Is this all the service of you and your family that I was promised, Thorin? Take it that I have disposed of my share as I wished, and let it not go at that. It seems like he finds his mind as he's going through that speech, right? He doesn't squeal anymore. He's saying his mind. And I just like that it's sort of finally the place where Bilbo is, he's doing the right thing here in order to explain his position, and he's not cowed by Thorin at all anymore. Like, he's over it at this point. Like, Thorin no longer holds any sort of, I don't know. I felt like there was a shadow of Thorin and his personality over the top of Bilbo whenever Bilbo was making a decision, because Thorin would always, he's like, what should we do, Bilbo? And then he would take the lead again. But at this point, I think Bilbo's just grabbing it and not letting go.
Yep, because Bilbo says the time was, after all, was all the same when you seem to think I had been of some service. That's an understatement.
Yeah.
Like, he saved their lives multiple times. He, like you pointed out, he was the one with the plan. He was the only one to enter the Dragon's Lair. Literally, the dwarves never even saw Smaug.
Yeah.
They never saw Smaug.
Right.
They were
heard
hiking
him.
the tunnel.
That's it.
Yeah, they heard him, but they never saw him, let alone do anything about him. And so it was Bilbo that was the hero in that. And so Bilbo seems here to be kind of, to my mind, doubling down on the 14th share, which was it almost seemed like a throwaway line at the end of the last chapter when he was explaining himself to Bard. Who, remember, Bard was very concerned that he was a traitor, and Bilbo's reason seems to have been, well, I'm claiming this as my 14th share, and so it's yours now because I give it to you, which they were all in amazement over. But it didn't seem like Bilbo had really thought that out. It had mentioned that it was probably worth more than that, the Arkenstone was actually. Which is probably why Thorin in this chapter agrees to give them. His bargaining is his statement is very interesting. He says that he agrees to give them the 1/14 of all the silver and gold, exempting the gems. So it's not 1/14 of all the wealth. He's going to take out all the gems, and he's going to take all the gold and silver and divide it into 14 parts, and then give them the 14th part, the gold and silver alone. Now, which probably is because the Arkenstone is worth far, far more than that, but but that's what he's willing to part with. Even though, of course, we know he's not really willing to part with it. He really wants to just take it by force.
Well, let's talk about why he's not willing to part with it. Because there's that line you hinted at in the brief overview that you gave.
Go for it.
Which was, already so strong was the bewilderment of the treasure upon him, he was pondering whether by the help of Dain he may not recapture the Arkenstone and withhold the share of the reward. It's not because of his dwarven heart, like you said. It's not because he has external pressures from outside telling him to do this. It's because of the bewilderment of the treasure. And this is something we've been talking about. Like, is it what is it that changes Thorin? What is it that changes the dwarves when they're in the mountain? Is it just the fact that they're back home? Is it their dwarven hearts, as Tolkien says in the last chapter, I think it was, or the chapter before? Or is it the hoard itself, the gold itself? Is it the dragon's effect on the gold and the gold's effect then on the dwarves? And I think, like you said, reading this, this might be the most clear indication of the gold having its effect on him. Now, is it because of the dragon, or is it because of the gold, or is it because of both? I mean, I probably say.
Well, okay, well, let's get into it. So,
Yep.
What happened was in the author of the annotated Hobbit, which I'm reading from as well, mentioned that in 1922 there had been a poem that Tolkien wrote in the Griffin, "Eumona gold galdre bewunden," and he basically traces a treasure of gold, a great treasure of gold, enchanted, made by the elves and enchanted by the elves, and it passes from the elves to the dwarf, to a dwarf, and it ruins him. And over the ages, his treasure is taken from him by a dragon, and then it ruins the dragon, and the dragon gets old and then is slain by a warrior who comes, and then the warrior gets the treasure and it ruins him, and he dies, and his house is destroyed, and the gold is lost, and no one will ever find it. And but it's all because of the enchantment. So and it's never going to be found until the elves come back again, basically. It finishes with, and no man's eyes shall find its secret till those return who wrought the treasure, till again burn the lights of fairy, and the woods shake, and the songs long silent once more awake. Which is, he's talking about the coming back of the elves. This is fairy. But they were the ones that created it and enchanted it in the first place. That was why the gold was enchanted. It was the enchanted gold that was the ruin in his poem from 1922. But I would say that the principle is the same. In The Hobbit, the enchantment comes from the dragon, not from the elves. But nevertheless, its effect is called out by Tolkien in a number of times. And so I do think indeed that the gold itself, the enchanted gold itself, is the primary cause of. I mean, maybe like the ring, it amplifies an existing temperament to something gross and evil. Gandalf calls out famously in the Fellowship of the Ring that when Frodo offers him the ring, he says, "Don't tempt me," and he said, "I would use the ring out of a desire to do good, but through me it would basically twist and corrupt."
Right.
So this idea of enchantment now, and the ring is a simple gold band. I do think there's a connection there. I think that Tolkien is tapping into the luster of gold and its effects on people. And he's adding in this enchantment idea that as a source potentially for the gold ruining people.
Yeah.
Too much? Did I go too far?
No. I just for me, after reading this chapter, seeing how many times now after first meeting the gold, so to speak, where he doesn't talk about its enchantment that much. We learn it progressively as the story goes on. And I think in the detail of reading this so deliberately, seeing that every time and not just glossing over it and noticing it every time has changed my mind to also say, like, the enchantment of the gold is actually the biggest factor in its effect on the dwarves. The enchantment of the gold from the dragon, not from anything else, not from elves, not from dwarves in the past, but from the dragon. Now, certainly, like, I still think we're talking like an 80-20 kind of effect, right? The gold that they want is the gold of their ancestors, is the Arkenstone, is the things that made Moria great, and so that is in their bones, that is in their hearts too. But the unreasonable attitude that they have towards everyone else, or particularly Thorin, because I would say the other dwarves are not as affected.
Thorin is basically ruined by it. He's morally ruined.
So then why are the other dwarves not ruined by it if it's the enchantment of the gold? Is it just that he is their leader and so it's the funnel down into his heart, so to speak?
No, I think it's because he has he has right claim to it. So he has right claim to the treasure, and that injustice, most of the treasure. I'm exempting the piece from Dale, which who knows how much that is, but most of the treasure is indeed his by right, as the son of the king that was slain by the dragon. And so there's I think evil often works, and enchantment often works on a seed of truth, and so there's a he has actual claim to the gold, and so the gold has a greater hold over it than it does over the dwarves.
I'm curious, what do you guys think? Like, are we right? Is it the enchantment that's everything? Because it is you guys, not you, but I'm talking about.
Oh, I know. I want to hear from our audience too.
Yeah.
Because it almost feels like the gold, just like the ring, to me, this is my going too far theory, but it almost feels like the gold has a hold on Thorin. Thorin has a hold on the gold because it's his by right, and the gold has a hold on Thorin. Just like Bilbo has a kind of claim to the ring, and that Gandalf recognizes, and then he gives it to Frodo, and so now Frodo has a claim on the ring, and it's best left in their hands because they have a claim to it, but it has a hold on them, even though they have a hold on it. And so I see the parallel.
Yeah. Although, I mean, okay. I'm not gonna argue that. I could, but I'm not going to, because I'd be wrong. It wasn't a good analogy that was going through my head. In any case, yes, the gold is a problem for the dwarves. Would it have affected, like, if the men had gotten there, would it have the same effect on them as it did the dwarves, to a lesser degree, perchance?
I do think so. Yes, I do think so. Now, interestingly, I'm going to make a strong claim that perhaps you'll disagree with, or others, that I think it would have had a lesser effect on Bard than it would on Thorin. And I base my claim on Tolkien's explicit statements about how dwarves are not really heroes, and they have basically a low moral character, and they're especially susceptible to greed. Whereas Bard literally is the hero. He's literally the guy that kills the dragon and saves his people. And so furthermore, Bard is Bilbo comes to them with the Arkenstone, which is from a practical perspective a tremendous gift, and Bard immediately looks the gift horse in the mouth on moral grounds and says, and basically is angry with Bilbo and says, "Are you a traitor? Is this
right?"
And so Bard's more moral character causes him to reject initially until he finds out that Bilbo has some claim to the treasure. And so I think Bard would be less affected, although I do think that he would have the same problem, which is he has a claim to part of the treasure, and the treasure might have a claim on him through its enchantment. So there's that problem.
Bard a little bit reminds me, you can correct me if you think this is off, a little bit of Faramir, because he does the right thing in the face of
a grim, dark-haired man that does the right thing and is not the favorite of everyone around him.
Right. And is doing the hard things and is not getting any appreciation for it from those that he's saving.
Oh, that's a good catch. I didn't even think about, he's disliked by the ruler of his people.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. And he also deals with the Hobbit on the side, just like
he deals with the Hobbit, and then he ends up with a kingdom, just like Faramir.
Yeah, a destroyed kingdom, but a kingdom nonetheless.
Yes.
Yeah, look at that. Maybe now we got to research.
Bard equals Faramir. That's our new theory.
Okay. All right. I don't think we're gonna get through this whole chapter in this episode, so we're gonna have to probably do the battle in the next episode. We'll talk about that. So, do
you have other things to talk about?
Well, I think. Well, let's talk about the dwarves coming. Maybe we talk about the battle in the next chapter and we go through how the battle works and all, or in the next episode and everything like that. But let's talk about this, right? So a day passes, a night passes, and then the dwarves appear. The dwarves of Dain. I think it's Dain, right?
It's Dain.
Yeah. They came, each one of his folk was clad in a hauberk of steel mail that hung to his knees, and his legs were covered with hose of a fine and flexible metal mesh, the secret of whose making was possessed by Dane's people. The dwarves are exceedingly strong for their height, but most of these were strong, even for dwarves. So these aren't your run-of-the-mill dwarves, mining some steel, or not steel, mining some iron, mining some gold in some long-forgotten mines. No, these are the most strongest and battle-ready dwarves.
These are the Dwarven special forces.
Yeah.
They're
In battle, they wielded 2 heavy-handed mattocks, but each of them had also a short broadsword at his side and a round shield slung at his back. So this is a battle mattock, we found a German battle mattock, which is probably a good approximation of what it was that they were using.
I think you intended it the other way. Just need to correct. They did not wield 2 heavy-handed mattocks. They wielded
heavy two-handed mattocks. Sorry. No, you're right. I said that wrong. Yes.
I just didn't want people to get the wrong idea of double fisting the mattock. No, we have not been.
And then we get the weird statement that their beards were forked and plated and thrust into their belts, which we never saw in any film or any other. Well, no, did we see that? We did see that maybe in the cartoon. I don't remember. It's been so long. But in any case, the beards and the belts always drove me weird, but we'll ignore that for now.
Well, I had a different reaction. I always thought this is what I found really cool about this chapter. So from the details of the dwarves all the way through the battle, Tolkien shows that he was a student of warfare of the past, which, of course, he's an Anglo-Saxon scholar, and Beowulf was his bailiwick. But there's so many details where he's invented a new world, but he's trying to show us how different they were in ways that made sense to others. So this Dwarven, that would have made sense only to people that study military history or know the medieval world. Mm-hmm. So the idea that dwarves had such an excellent armor, he goes to great lengths to describe it. It hangs to their knees, which doesn't. They have belts around it. It's not like they're wearing this loose robe of chainmail. Yeah. But he then talks about their leggings made of chainmail, essentially, and obviously it's a different. It's made differently from the hauberks because he calls it out explicitly that only they knew how to do that, which by extension, I believe we can conclude that other people knew how to make hauberks, but only the dwarves knew how to make these leggings. And it is hard to make. You have to do the rings correctly. Like chainmail for leggings is different. This is a nerd moment. Sorry. Chainmail for leggings is if you want if you want a piece of chainmail armor to have a stiffness to it that molds to the body, but doesn't just drape and hang, then you have to weave the chainmail in a different way than the hanging chainmail. And so, and it's much more, it's a more complicated to do. And so, he's pointing out that only the dwarves do this, and even Bard points it out. Like Bard's mocking the dwarves and saying they're fighting all wrong, but along the way he gives them a backhanded compliment and says, "Yeah, their mail may be the best, essentially, but we'll test it with all our arrows." So the dwarves are just these are like dwarven special forces. These are like the Navy SEALs.
But it was what 500, right?
Yeah, 500 of them, and they're carrying these massive packs with all kinds of food that Tolkien mentions later. They have a double-handed mattock. They have a short sword. They have a shield. They have tons of armor. They're just they're these beasts of battle. But there's only 500 of them. So
they come greeting him by saying, "We are sent from Dain, son of Nain. We are hastening to our kinsmen in the mountains, since we learned that the kingdom of old is renewed. But who are you that sit in the plain as foes before defended walls?" This, of course, in the polite and rather old-fashioned language of such occasions, meant simply, "You have no business here. We are going on, so make way, or we shall fight you." I love that he doesn't. He's like, okay, so just so you get the point, we're not going to beat around the bush here, dear reader.
That felt like an aside to his kids, almost to me. Like
it did, yeah. Like here, just so you get what it is they're saying. I can't give you the exact inflection that they're using as they're talking here, but this is what they meant. I did like that.
Yeah, it sounds polite, but they're not really being polite.
Yeah. Pardon me. So they come. He refused to allow the dwarves to go straight into the mountain, and was determined to wait until the gold and silver had been brought out in exchange for the Arkenstone. But the dwarves were ready. They had a ton of supplies. A great store of them, for the dwarves can carry very heavy burdens. So not only are they great warriors, they're also great, strong-legged, I guess short legs that can go. The one funny line for Gimli that I approved of was that made me laugh when I saw it in the films was, of course, dwarves very short legs but very fast over short distances.
That's right. Excellent.
But yes, they were slow in getting there, perhaps, but could carry very heavy burdens that they would withstand a siege for weeks. So already they're prepared and ready. They didn't come on a whim in the sense of like, just grab what you've got on your back and go. No, they came. I mean, I'm sure they came quickly once they heard from Roach that Raven that Thorin had retaken the mountain. But they came completely prepared. So already we have this giant standoff between the armies of elves and men and the army of the dwarves here. And so in a way...
The Elven King turns out to be the peacenik.
Isn't that funny? I noted that. Like, he's the one that is like, can we avoid battle here? Long will I tarry ere I begin this war for gold, he said. The dwarves cannot pass us unless we will, or do anything that we cannot mark. Let us hope still for something that will bring reconciliation. Our advantage in numbers will be enough, if in the end it must come to unhappy blows. So he thought that they could indeed win the battle, but he didn't want to fight the battle if he didn't have to.
He reckoned without the dwarves. That's it. It's a funny thing, just a funny way to put it. What do you think he means by that? He reckoned without the dwarves.
I don't know, but he reckoned without the dwarves. What do you think he meant by that?
I think he meant it's an older way of saying, in other words, his reckoning, what he's doing in his head and playing out the scenarios, doesn't include basically the heart of the dwarves in this matter. So since he's not thinking like a dwarf, he's making a mistake about the way this is going to go. And Tolkien tells us the way the dwarves are actually thinking. It says, the knowledge that the Arkenstone was in the hands of the besiegers burned in their thoughts. Also, they guessed the hesitation of Bard and his friends and resolved to strike while they debated. So the heart of the dwarves is, we love the Arkenstone and you shouldn't have it, so we're going to take it, and we're going to take advantage of your hesitation and surprise attack you, which is exactly what they did. So in other words, the dwarves are the dwarves are low.
Yeah, I guess
that was a pun.
It's funny though, because he makes the point of how much well, let me see if I can find the line here. No, never mind. That was a quote about the orcs, so forget about that. But yeah, I guess maybe it's because, do you think it's because they hadn't fought battle in so long? Do you think it's because...
I just think the Elven King doesn't understand. Well, what's funny is he's long had... Like, he just quoted to Bilbo last chapter that he knows more about dwarves than Bilbo does. So, but I just don't think he reckons with the how much they've taken this to 11. Like, the dwarves are willing to cheat. Thorin is lying to them, promising them something he does not intend to give. They're willing to come to blows with the free peoples of that land, and do violence over the fact that they have an Arkenstone, which Arkenstone, by the way, is Thorin tacitly admitted was Bilbo's claim. He admits Bilbo's claim because he doesn't just slay Bilbo where Bilbo stands. He sends him back. In other words, he doesn't consider him to be a traitor. Well, he does call him a traitor, but he doesn't consider him to be like a betrayer that just deserves death because of what he's done. And so I just don't. The Elven King may know more about dwarves, but the Elven King is still an elf, and the dwarves are wholly bent by this situation to violence towards those who oppose them.
Or you could say that since these were the top tier of dwarves, he wasn't prepared for those kinds of dwarves either.
I guess, yeah. Maybe since they're the Dwarven Special Forces, then their first reaction is violence.
Dwarven Marines? I don't know if you can say that.
Rangers.
Call
them Rangers.
Dwarf Rangers? I don't know. But a Ranger, Lord of the Rings, I don't know if we can say that.
Yeah, you're right. There's different meaning for Rangers. So
let's go to this. let's go to this last couple paragraphs where the battle is begun and then quickly halted, and then we'll move on to the entire battle. I think that's enough to give us a whole, because we can talk about so much of it. There's so many little things that go on in this battle that we can talk about what the strategy
Lots
is.
of details.
And honestly, I will say I'm gonna rewatch part of the battle scene, particularly the beginning of it from the Hobbit, because
the worms. You're gonna watch the worms.
The worms, right? The worms. Okay, no, I'm gonna watch strategically. Did he follow at all what Tolkien did? Is it possible to figure out if he tried to? Because I think I looked at it. It is nearly an hour and a half, 2 hours of just this battle on the screen going on the whole time, and it is an utter disaster.
Well, that's what it is interesting. Like you say, if you're going to take a battle and you're going to turn it into an hour and a half on screen, did you at least include the stuff that Tolkien included?
Yeah,
I mean, granted that you're going to invent a bunch of stuff as well.
Right. I mean, I remember the worms coming, and then I remember that Toriel and Legolas went to, was it Gundabad? Is that what they call it? Is that where they said they went to?
They better not have gone to Gundabad. Gundabad
that's
is
so
like
far away. Yeah. Where did they go to? Because there was a large army of orcs with a gate that opened up in the film. Maybe it was the extended edition. See this? I don't even remember.
Dol Guldur. The orcs came from Dol Guldur.
No, but that's not where Toriel and. Anyway, I'll have to.
I don't remember.
I don't remember it either. See, it's all. Here's the problem. Tolkien was so precise. And we'll show you next week in this great map from the Atlas of Middle Earth of how the battle was engaged between the different armies. He was precise in it, and a lot of people say like, "Oh man, Bilbo knocked his head, and he didn't experience the battle at all." I'm like, "Yeah, he gave enough explanation about how the battle was going for you, if you read it carefully, to have a good idea of how the armies of light." To go back our light and dark conversation from the early part of this episode, the armies of light were able to essentially have a good strategy to begin with, but then they didn't account for the actual strategy that the orcs had in order to fight the battle and attack them from the rear. So we'll go through all that next week. But here's where it starts. Suddenly, without a signal, they sprang silently forward. That would be the dwarves, right? The dwarves suddenly sprang forward. Bows twanged and arrows whistled. Battle was about to be joined. I loved the word twanged because the only other time that I think he used it one other time in this episode with Bard, and then this book with Bard, and then it's used in this one phrase in The Lord of the Rings. Frodo could recover or speak a word. Before Frodo could recover or speak a word, 3 hobbit bows twanged and Wormtongue fell dead. The word twang for some reason stuck in my head, so there you go. There's the word twang from The Lord of the Rings. But I think Tolkien has an appreciation of the word twang for its onomatopoeia. In any case, still more suddenly a darkness came on with dreadful swiftness. A black cloud hurried over the sky, like you said, a B-movie like black cloud hurried over the sky. Winter, this is my favorite line right here, my favorite prose in the entire chapter. Winter thunder on a wild wind rolled roaring up and rumbled in the mountain, and lightning lit its peak. Very, very
so much English. Alliteration.
So much alliteration. So much Old English.
Oh yes.
In that.
Just the old English loved.
Yeah. Winter thunder on a wild wind rolled roaring up and rumbled in the mountain, and lightning lit its peak. It is poetic, right? In a very in a very grounded way, right? It feels like there's much going on just because of the way. I just love that. Was again my love of English and my love of reading comes from when words feel like they have more meaning than they're actually giving it, and the way that he wrote this, I just love that line. And a winter thunder. What's a winter thunder? It is a cold, ominous reverberation that chills your bones. That's like that's a winter thunder, and I loved that phrase, winter thunder. In any case, okay. And beneath the thunder, another blackness could be seen whirling forward from worms that dug out of the mountains. Oh wait, no, sorry. But it did not come with the wind. It came from the north, like a vast cloud of birds so dense that no light could be seen between their wings. And this is the start of the Battle of the 5 Armies. So next week, we'll get into that. We'll get into what are the 5 armies, because Tolkien does make it clear, although I think it's kind of weird. I think Peter Jackson, this is why he felt like he had to have 2 orc armies come in, because there was the ones from the north, and I think then there were the ones from the worms. Anyway, we'll get into that.
Oh, interesting. Now, one last question from the part that you read about. Do you think this is magic? Like, how is there a black cloud that just comes roaring up over the wind and covers everything? And then beneath that darkness, like literally we're in the middle of like a 5 to 10 second scene where people are firing arrows. So how does a cloud roll across the sky in a tiny amount of time? So much so that everyone stops, and then Gandalf pops out in the middle of the battlefield and tells them to stop fighting. Like this does not seem like natural occurrence.
I always assumed it was the distance. He calls the bats coming like a sea of locusts or a cloud of locusts, I think. And I always felt like it was the precursor to that. Whatever was coming forward was they could see that in the distance, and so that started. I don't know. It was very high. So I don't think so, because
it says a black cloud hurried over the sky.
Yeah, so I know.
And then it says, and beneath the thunder, another blackness.
I know. That's what it says, but it's not what I thought when I was reading it originally, right? I never thought of it as black cloud. Is it magic? Or is it?
Do orcs have magic?
Is it discatastrophe of a black cloud coming up?
Discatastrophe.
It's a word I just made up.
As opposed to dat catastrophe, there's discatastrophe and dat catastrophe.
I hate being put into this corner. Is it magic? I don't want to say it's magic. I think it's author's intent to make it. What do you think? Who's doing the magic?
I don't know.
Is it Sauron?
Necromancer, maybe.
Is it? I guess maybe.
Necromancer's in southern Mirkwood right now. Is close enough to affect things.
I don't know. It's a writer's decision to add more darkness and more.
Oh yeah, sorry. I gotta go reverse. So this right here behind my head is where Sauron is. Yes, this is Sauron, and this is where the battle is.
So theoretically, yes, the necromancer could have sent us, although we haven't in this.
Came from all the way over here.
Is this retconning though? Is it like saying the necromancer is doing? Is that retconning? Because he was not Sauron when he wrote this story.
Fair enough. Doesn't mean he can't do black magic.
Was the necromancer? Did he even say the necromancer was in league with the orcs in this book somewhere? Did I miss that?
No.
Okay, so it's not the necromancer.
No, could be. He could have sent the bats in the darkness.
It's a writer's convention. It's a dark cloud. It's just like when you have a moody movie and they make it rain. Same sort of idea.
Stop asking questions, Grumbine. All right, fine.
Hey, you don't have an answer either. I'm just throwing to you what I think it is. I think it's the author wanting to put a black cloud in there because it adds.
I think Tolkien just wants to stop the dwarves from fighting, and so he does something dramatic to stop the dwarves.
Unless it's Gandalf who did it because he wanted them to stop.
Oh, there we go. Gandalf.
He appeared suddenly and stood alone with arms uplifted. Maybe, arms uplifted. Maybe he was doing something too.
Probably just trying to get attention, but maybe. But either way, Gandalf does seem to have he can do thunderclaps and he can do flashes of light. And, he seems to have some affinity with this kind of thing. I've never seen him do a black cloud before, but there's a first time for everything.
Maybe it was the Dark Wizard from Rune.
Oh no!
Sorry,
Rings of Power. The one person I'm sure it was not
coming next year, 2026.
Oh my gosh, it's gonna be so bad.
All right, anyway. All right, everybody, thank you for getting through us. I thought we could get through this whole chapter when I first read it, but look at that. It's been almost an hour already, and we are just about halfway through. Well, maybe a little more than halfway through. In any case, we got to talk about the entire battle, how the battle goes, the strategies used.
Where the orcs are from, how they tamed the wild worms to tunnel deep beneath Middle Earth to
why do 12 dwarves coming out the front gate of the Lonely Mountain sway the entire battle for a short amount of time?
Yeah, that's weird.
That's weird. We'll get into that in our next episode. Everybody, hey, if you want to listen to the extended podcast, because we still have more to talk about, go to theonering.com/member, go to patreon.com or theonering.com/Patreon, or just look for Exploring Tolkien on Patreon. You'll find that too. But theonering.com/Patreon will put you there. And you'll be able to join our monthly chats. You'll be able to hear our extended edition. Hey, I'm still working, just so y'all know, I'm still working on the app. I haven't been able to work on it for a few weeks, the app for Exploring Tolkien. I haven't been able to work on it for a few weeks because I spent time in DC and Virginia with my family, And recently,
How dare you?
for those of you who are still listening here at the end, my day job is I've been a web developer, programmer, marketer for 25 years now. And I just helped relaunch the new Geeks and Gamer site. So I was deeply involved in that. So that took a lot of my time over the last couple of weeks too. So I apologize for not getting the app up in the meantime. However, it is still coming. We'll see if it'll be done this year, you know, for kids and all this other stuff. But we're working on it, and we'll hopefully have it for you then too. And our members will be able to get access to it probably earlier than everybody else, and we'll add some more features for it too. So thewonder.com/member, thewonder.com/Patreon. Everybody, at the end of this episode, in our extended edition, we're going to do one thing. I'm going to read a quote from Sigwenza, who in our Discord had a really good point about Bilbo wanting to go home. And I'm going to read that, and we'll talk about that a little bit.
Nice.
And then I thought a fun thing to talk about is, like, we got a lot of talking ravens, or, well, a couple talking ravens. Is it just one? Just one talking raven that we meet in The Hobbit. Why were there no talking? There weren't even talking eagles in The Lord of the Rings. Why are there no talking ravens? If we had to insert a talking raven into The Lord of the Rings, where would the talking raven go? Where would it feel most at home in The Lord of the Rings? So anyway, we'll get into that. Maybe one more thing, but I might save that to the next week, and that's going to be about the rings and power and all that sort of stuff. I don't know if that applies to the Hobbit yet, but we'll get into that too. So everybody, catch you next episode. If you're not following up, you gotta go to thewonder.com/member, guys. You get another 20 minutes of us.
Yep.
Michael's brief interjections.
Michael's interjections anyway. Bye, free
All right. See you guys.